answers that the Taoiseach gives. Deputy Catherine Murphy, I have no response. Deputies, you well know that I have no responsibility for this. Taoiseach, Deputy Catherine Murphy.
Taoiseach, let me start by saying I know and respect the fact that the Cregan Commission of Investigation is underway, so I won't be commenting on the substance of the inquiry. However, I feel I must raise concerns regarding information that is now very much in the public domain regarding the request by Justice Cregan for a doubling of legal fees and a significant extension of time to complete the Siteserv module. If the full increase in legal fees is granted, it's anticipated the inquiry will cost in the region of £25 million. The original preliminary estimate was £4 million. The inquiry commenced in mid-2015 and is now seeking yet another extension to the end of 2018. From the very start of this process, I expressed a desire that the inquiry would not cost a fortune and would not go on for years, and I know others did likewise. It's my understanding that that commissions of inquiry are answerable to the Dáil, and I'd like, Taoiseach, today for you to confirm that's actually the case. The intention, as I understood it, was that the Commission would act as a means of investigation led by a judge, and that it would take information provided to it and investigate based on this and other information it received. It was not intended to be a judicial process, and I have serious concerns that it is now deviating from the role originally envisaged for it. It's in my very first communication with the Commission, I sought an undertaking in relation to confidentiality. I had given assurances to those who had received information from that I would not be revealing their identities, and I have not, and Taoiseach, I will not be revealing their names. My cooperation with the Commission is without question, up until the point that such cooperation requires me to divulge confidential sources, thus potentially putting them in harm's way. When whistleblowers come to us as TDs, they sometimes seek assurances about confidentiality, and we as public representatives should and need to respect that. But the information I was given, much of which I've passed on to the inquiry, is apparently being reduced in value because I won't identify my sources. And I have a problem with that. Now it appears that retrospective changes have been made to the procedures. I have recently learned that my submission has been widely circulated to what are described as potentially interested parties, whereas when I sought assurances on confidentiality from the Commission before I ever submitted information, I was told it would only be divulged as necessary. So there appears to have been a significant deviation from where necessary to potentially interested. And there's no small difference, Taoiseach, in that. So my questions are, will you outline to the Dáil how you intend to handle the request for the doubling of fees? If it's granted, what department will the money come from? Can you confirm that the Commission is indeed answerable to the Dáil? And would you have concerns regarding the deviation from where necessary to potentially interested when it comes to the distribution of sensitive information supplied to the Commission?
3 minutes to respond.
Not dissimilar to some of the previous issues, I'm conscious that we're speaking about a Commission of Investigation, and the Commission of Investigation is not a creature of the government. It is, to the best of my recollection, based in the legislation, accountable to the Dáil, not accountable to me. I'm accountable to the Dáil for the actions of government. I'm not accountable to the Dáil for the actions and operations of a tribunal or a court or a judge who's been appointed to carry out an independent investigation. Judge Cregan has asked for an extension to the end of next year. I think there is no other option but to grant that extension. If we do not grant an extension, obviously the investigation falls. So he's asked that he have until the end of next year to to continue his work and investigations, and I think that's appropriate. He's also asked for a doubling of legal fees. The legal fees for commissions of investigation are the same across commissions of investigation. He has asked that in the case of his commission they be doubled. I met with the party leaders to discuss this matter last week, or perhaps the week before. I think it was last week. Deputy Murphy was there, and she'll be aware that the broad consensus across the party leaders was that we shouldn't agree to a request to double the legal fees for this particular Commission of Inquiry, that the legal fees should remain standard across these commissions. However, my officials committed to meet with the judge and discuss with him perhaps other ways in which the work of the Commission could be supported, whether that's through additional staff or other supports.
Taoiseach, if the Commission is answerable to the Dáil, I don't understand why the Dáil is not involved in this process when there is an extension being sought, because one of the differences with the Commission of Inquiry's legislation is that it produces reports intermittently, and I would have thought that those reports would be to discuss at the Dáil if the Dáil is the one that the Commission is answerable to. And it's a very sizable amount of money, but also the length of time that is taken, and it's not concluded, and it needs to conclude. But this was the first module. There were to be other transactions that were to be considered, and this looks like it is moving more into Tribunal of Inquiry territory rather than, with the way it's been handled, than the Commission of Investigation module. Taoiseach, do you have concerns about it moving into a different format to the one that it was envisaged in the first place? And will you raise that with the judge?
I appreciate the Deputy's sincerity in this matter, but I'm being asked some very difficult questions here. I'll have to check the legislation for a start to see exactly how the Commission of Investigation is accountable to the Dáil and how that operates. I'd have to read that again to be sure that I'm answering correctly. My recollection from the meeting that we had 2 weeks ago among the party leaders was that it would be possible for the government or for me as Taoiseach to extend the deadline by order, that it doesn't require a vote of the House, but I would like to check that before saying that for certainty. Judge Cregan was appointed as a judge to carry out this role independently, and I don't think it would be appropriate for me as Taoiseach to seek to interfere in any way with the way he conducts his investigation.
On to the order of business, and I call on Minister